let's get chats up here. I can also hear myself, but I'm coming out of the wrong audio thing. That could be. Now it will be. Close that. Daisy Albert 2 followed us 7 days ago on Twitch. I don't know for sure if I saw that when it happened or not, but thanks to Daisy Albert 2. Shout out to them on Twitch. Thanks for the follow, my friend. Sorry if I missed it when I was live. I need to get my overlay thing fixed. It makes a jingle, which is what my brain was trained to listen for, and I think it's probably got its API token expired or something like that. It needs to be refreshed, I'm guessing, because it's not working right now. Gotta look back into that. Okay. Here we go. So good morning to Tyeth. How are you today, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Yep, I was just a few minutes late this morning. Mostly I was just a few minutes behind, but specifically I was still making some coffee, which I definitely wanted to have before I sat down. Still very hot. I may go refill my water at some point as well, but we'll get rolling first here. Let me get this over there. All right, so good morning to everyone. Good morning to C. Grover as well. Coffee cheers. For anybody that might be new, first of all, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord, as well as Twitch. And I think you can do Foamy Guy on YouTube, although YouTube is a weird one because there was 2 different names, and I don't know, YouTube is more convoluted than the rest, but Foamy Guy is where I'm at on Discord and such. You can reach out to me there. On the stream, I typically work on CircuitPython stuff, most typically, although I branch out from time to time. Usually not in this time slot. Saturday mornings, it's usually pretty strictly CircuitPython, or at least something in the surrounding, world of CircuitPython. Sometimes it's like infrastructure or something, and not microcontrollers directly. But usually during this time, it will be something CircuitPython-ish. At other times throughout the week, sometimes I pop up with other things going on, but CircuitPython is the main thing for this stream. If you don't know what CircuitPython is, you can learn more at its website, circuitpython.org. It's basically a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers, like all of these ones depicted over here on the downloads page. Basically, these devices will typically plug into your computer with a USB cable. They'll show up like a thumb drive with a Python code file on that thumb drive. You can open that code file in whatever text editor you want and edit it and save it. And then when you save it, the computer that's on the device will actually read, kind of like reload, and then read that new version of the code file and execute it for you. And your Python code is able to interact with other hardware peripherals that are connected to the circuit. So lots of these microcontrollers you'll see will have these things along the sides or whatever called I/O pins. These allow you to connect other little bits of hardware, whether it's lights or speakers or buttons or sensors or whatever kind of little thing you can imagine. Usually you can connect up into your circuit, and then if you use CircuitPython, you can write some Python code to interact with whatever thing that was you connected. So thanks to Adafruit, as always. Adafruit is the company that sponsors CircuitPython. They pay the folks who work on it. So shout out to them, as always. Head over to adafruit.com if you want to get yourself some fun toys and help support CircuitPython and those of us that are paid by Adafruit to work on it. Today we're just picking up right where we left off last night. So if you are watching this and didn't watch the deep dive last night, and you walk away from this wanting to know kind of what the precursor was, you can watch the latter part of the deep dive. We worked on something else for a while first, but the last maybe half hour, 40 minutes or so was looking into this. So if you want the the precursor to this, that's where to find it. Basically, we're inside Displayio layout. We're looking at flip input. Yesterday, we narrowed it down to a specific version of CircuitPython where the flip input stops working. So now we're going to try to figure out why. Doing well, thanks. Hope you are too. Yep, I'm doing very well, thank you. In a greenhouse with tunes, new matrix portal S3 hunting for transparency rotary encoder switches. Transparent rotary encoder switches, very civilized. Nice. Yeah, greenhouse sounds pretty nice. Would love a nice greenhouse that gets like warm in the sun and stuff. That would be a cool place to hang out. So definitely sounds pretty cool. I don't think I've ever seen transparent rotary encoders. That's kind of interesting. So it's basically like the knob itself is transparent, or like the whole mechanism or something. Okay, so we also saw yesterday, I don't even have PyCharm open yet, but we also saw yesterday that the crux of the error is effectively some code that's saying that our value is out of range, and the range is basically the size of a bitmap that's having blit called on it. This is not my device. I don't have a device plugged in. That is why that's not my device. Plug that in. And we did see that when we're on the, when we change between the breakpoint of CircuitPython versions to go between working and not working, what we found was that the X and Y values that are getting passed into that blit function are different. So it's not so much that, like I had first kind of assumed, was that the issue would be that there was new error checking added in blit, and that maybe it used to be allowed to go negative or go past the edge or whatever, and that eventually new checking got added and then that was no longer allowed. That was my original kind of assumption. But it turns out what we were seeing more so was that the values that are getting passed in to blit are actually changing. So on one version of CircuitPython, the math for this particular thing that's making these values comes out to a positive value of 30 something, 34, 32, something like that. And then on a different version of CircuitPython, that same math, that same library code, that same Python level module code is resulting in a -6 instead of a 30. Is this not in lib? I'm not in lib. Okay, I was like, what is going on here? Let me see here. I also covered up the chats. Shaft and knob are clear. Found some with built-in LED. Oh, that would look cool. But lost the link to work with I2C. Oh, yeah, I love those I2C, the rotary encoders. I made what was it? I made a Etch-a-Sketch that utilized those for the knobs. They were super handy to work with. I liked it a lot. Otherwise, I'll make small light shield guide to route the LED under the non-clear rotary encoders. Clear would be super cool. I don't think I've seen that. That'd be awesome, though. In the windy fridge, 0 degrees F, wind chill -10. Yep, that's about what it's. That's about what we're looking at here as well. Working on Synthio wavetable file cabinet. Just released waveviz graphic. Nice. Okay, nice. That's the probably the table one that you showed us last week, I think. All right, the link. Yes, this link copy thing. I gotta get the link copying worked out here. When you use Discord in Chrome and you right-click a link, it does not have the option to just copy the link. It has the option to copy a link to the Discord message, which contains the link that you right-clicked, but not the link itself, which is super weird. But I don't know. I pay way too close attention to how software works sometimes. So yeah, that's awesome. I love the tiny one down here as well. Super cool, man. Try not to burn my tongue here. So that's visualizing from Synthio, or data that is, okay, the table files. Nice. So then, and I'm very noob to audio, so correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm thinking is like this would kind of show you like if you had a sawtooth, if you had a sample of a sawtooth wave or whatever, this visualization would show that sawtooth. This is kind of visualizing the whatever that is. I don't know the actual proper term, I guess, but whatever they show in those kind of diagrams like that. Or if you had a square wave, then it would look like the kind of castle squares there. All right, so right here is where we printed, so we could go in a number of different ways. So for one thing, I was thinking about this more. After I finished a little bit, and this is inside animate bitmap. But we're not actually seeing any animation, I don't think. So it might be beyond the fact that it crashes on the newer versions. Actually, I'm kind of suspecting maybe there's also some other logical error that's causing it not to do what it originally did anyway. Because what I noticed is there's like a period of time where the text disappears. Now, what I don't know is what bitmap this is, actually. We need to figure that part out. Do need to figure that part out. What I noticed, though, is like there's no real animation, right? Like you press it, the old one disappears, the new one appears. But there's no like horizontal or vertical, there's no motion that I can detect. Let me look at it straight on. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see any motion at all. And I'm wondering, like, animate bitmap seems like it would be for making motion? But maybe it's fading. Well, we don't really have fading so much. Yeah, it says draw position. Target position. Yeah, this should be moving something, I feel, probably, right? Well, okay, first, is there an on-off switch for this? But I mean, surely the simple test would have it on, I guess. Animation time. Yeah, totally there is. And it, for the dates, the years, I should say, it's a longer time, which is also why it disappears for longer, probably. So that's not working. I think it's not actually, it's not crashing, but it's also not probably doing whatever it did, which is a bit odd. How do we get, I don't even know how to find out exactly what it's supposed to do. Like, the geometry is probably over my head a bit. Like, I'd probably spend this entire stream trying to step through the geometry and still not necessarily walk away with a correct understanding, but so I mean, one thing is it turns auto refresh, turns it to false, and then it draws, then it turns it to true, then it loops inside the loop, turns it to false, but then it says turn it to false again, draw, turn it to true. We're inside the loop, and so then this would update and be false again. Then if it's else, it actually does, it's still false. It calls draw position, and then it calls break, which would break out of the while true. And then it would set it back to true. Okay, so basically it's like a timer, right? If the current time is less than... If the current amount of time we've run for is less than the amount of time was specified in animation time, then we hit this branch of the logic where we set it false, we draw, we set it true. What does this do? Target bitmap, bitmap 1, bitmap 2. Draw position. Draws 2 bitmaps into the target bitmap with offsets. Maybe this was what was trying to go negative? And we're currently on 800 something. We're on the last one that succeeds, I think, maybe. Beta 6, yeah, because it was RC0 was the first one that fails. Okay. Which way do we want to chase? Do I want to chase... Why does it not actually do any animations? Or do I want to chase... Why does it crash on the new version? Let's chase the crash first, I guess. Good morning, DJ Devin. WaveViz looks at waveforms like an oscilloscope. Nice. You can work with a 1D list, though. Link us the Etch-a-Sketch. Was it a learn guide? It was not a... did I? I don't think I made a learn guide. I don't think... There is... I will say there is an Etch-a-Sketch learn guide, which is similar to mine, but it's was made by either JP or... Noe and Pedro, and I apologize, but I'm not remembering right now who. I think it has a 3D printed case, which obviously Noe and Pedro do a lot of that, but... Oh, I called it Blinka Sketch. I called it Blinka Sketch so that it wouldn't, so that I wouldn't use any copyrighted, trademarked toys of Bill and Bradley or whatever. I don't know who owns Etch-a-Sketch. That is, I believe, the only kind of link to it anywhere. But I mean, it's like written up sort of. There's a couple pictures, and then there is the code that drives it, and then there is all the 3D printed parts, which was the case, the back, and the knobs are all 3D printed. And then it uses a PyPortal and 2 of those rotary encoder I2C jobbers that we were talking about earlier. Yeah, for sure. If horizontal, if position equals 1. So position, I think, is I don't know. I think position is always between 0 and 1. I think position is like the percentage of how far through the animation it is. I should have labeled that. Oh my. That's a lot more than I would have thought. We should get rid of some things, right? Let's choose only 1 instead of 3. When is the first one? Months? Months? Yeah, let's do months. Well, yeah, let's do months. Gotta go back to 8.0 beta. Yeah, I mean, well, we think, right? I haven't actually really tracked it all the way down just yet, so we'll see if it ends up, like, for all I know, I could be on a dead end here, but... So we can just take all of this, I think. Use accidental press. I flip selected. Interesting. This feels awkward because I would have thought that selected would be what is ultimately triggering our animation and our draw position and all of that stuff. Well, but that's not true though, because we got all those prints before I ever touched anything. But anyway, in the case when we are touching things, I would think that selected is triggering animations, but if the animation starts and then there's a sleep, is that going to step on its toes? Especially with auto refresh off? I don't actually know for sure if that matters. Okay, yeah, so that was totally a position from 1 to 0, but it did overshoot. And it... Yeah. Let's see what it did, but it, like, went all the way really fast and then kind of bounced back. And it is... Those aren't literal pixel positions, right? Those have to be percentages or whatever. And at this point, we do not actually have the 34. So maybe that was only one of them. Maybe that does not actually fail. Let us try... Like, so my next guess would be that the horizontal one is obviously the one that is the odd one out. So maybe only the horizontal one fails. I'm gonna grab these and keep them over here. Not place. Doesn't let me create a directory. Okay, whatever. Trying to get it to where I could, like, have that higher up so that I could see it and then copy them into here. But, you know, I don't think I've ever pasted a UF2 inside a PyCharm. A little scared, actually. Does that work? Would not be surprised if it doesn't technically work, but let's give it a try. It's blinking. Okay. So I think that vertical ones actually succeed on the new version, and that horizontal one is the only one that has the exception. That is my current hypothesis. Let's find out if it's right. So let's comment this one and uncomment the last one, which is the only horizontal one. And then we can do this game where we're gonna comment this, swap it for that. Neat cipher there, seems like odd place to see one. Not sure what cipher it was. I gotta look at the chat more quickly. I feel like sometimes I miss the chat by a few minutes, and then my kind of goldfish brain is forgot what the context was already. Why is this red? Illegal target variable notation? Are you sure? Oh, because we have elif with no if. Yeah, that's kind of annoying, huh? Okay, well, let's do it this way, I guess. Oh, we still have red. My flip value. Flip value is 2015. Oh, this is setting value. Maybe it actually crashes on value. We'll comment this back out as well afterwards to check. In temp text. Oh yeah. It's it is Enigma cipher. I was working on Enigma, kind of like a version of an Enigma machine on a MacroPad. Was that on? I don't remember for sure if it was MacroPad or what, but it was basically like you plug it into the computer and then you like save your message onto it, and then later you press like message to have it sent back as a keyboard. And that was my test file for it. All of my super secret messages, which now everyone has seen. That was a fun project. It took me a while to get it correct, but I learned a lot about the Enigma machine, first of all, but also just being able to kind of logically trace. I mean, it's an electrical circuit, but really I thought of it more as like logically tracing through a program than a circuit, even though it happened to be technically a circuit. All right, that should be enough to test the horizontal one. Whoops, I accidentally killed it by trying to move us to the other side there. Out of range, yeah. So let me take that value off. We don't do the value, does it still crash? It doesn't. But it does as soon as you move it. Okay. How come it... oh, because my print was not in horizontal? Maybe? Right, also I'm trying to remember to do... I think I decided this way looks better with the camera, right? Well, we kind of cover up part of the Pi portal, though. Maybe we should just... Well, I'm cutting off part of the chat also anyway, huh? That look too squished? Anyway, stop messing around with the stream. Yeah, out of target. So we need to not set the value. We need to go find where we set the value, and then I'm surprised we didn't get the print, but I guess my print is only in, must be only in vertical. Whoops, wrong, totally wrong file. Back then they had to use hardware for had to use hardware for programs, so we can use software to emulate Enigma and most ciphers. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It is an interesting object, the Enigma machine. It's fascinating to think of like somebody designing that mechanism back then. Mine was also incomplete in that it didn't have the, I think they call it the plug board in English. It didn't have the ones at the front that could swap letter for letter. Like the Enigma machine, it has the disks, and you can use different disks as well. So there's like even choices within that. But then in the front, it's got optional plug wires where you can plug wires, just choose any two letters you want. And I don't remember if it goes both ways or if it's only one way. I think it's only one way, maybe. But you can set it up to say, like, I want to change E's to R's today. Like, after everything else happens, also just change E's to R's or whatever you want. Mine did not have that part. I only did the disks, the rotors. But I was ready for a break from Enigma Machine after that, because it took me a while to get that part working. I was so close for like a while. I had it to where it would work for the disks that I started writing it with, and then as soon as I changed the disks, everything went to nowhere good for a while. But I did eventually make it. Yeah. Oh, the reflectors I forgot about too. Yeah, the reflectors are like the special ones that are all transitive or whatever. They go backs ways, forth ways the same. Whereas the other rotors don't do that. They can be more randomized. You know, I never started any music today. Better? $565, this one's getting to. That is on position 0, and I actually added this part. Flip input compatible blit. That was what the feedback from Jose was basically when I originally submitted this, instead of making it compatible with both, I only made it compatible with one and left the comment. And Jose was thinking it'd be better if it was compatible to both. So I was changing it to do that, and that's when I noticed that it was not working at all anymore. This is a different place, though. It's in draw position. So it's before horizontal, though, right? So why does... How does that fail, I wonder? It's actually X1. I wish there was like a shortcut or something for generating stuff like this that's super repetitive, but I find tedious to type. I guess I could have just done one and copy pasted, but I don't know that I would have made it there any faster. I do think I'll put the value back because I don't want to have to touch it every time. Why did we not get a print? All right, let's turn the value back on. Aside from that, why do we not get this? Five, 6, 5 doesn't have code on it. What? Okay. 5, 7, 4. So it doesn't have code on it. What is going on? Why does it keep pointing me at lines of code that are empty? Oh, this says not. Got him with the not again. I think that was one of my first attempts at trying this before I had noticed it was broken and then started trying to just make it not broken before I went to the whole compatible thing. Okay. Now that we're in the right file, 574 is on target bitmap.blit, and we do print this, and it's actually not at position 0, is at position 1. So x offset 2 and y offset 2. X offset 2 came out as negative. Which came from here. X offset 2, Y offset 2 came from bitmap offset 0, 1, and 2. Or I mean 0 and 1. Let's just make sure that nothing super crazy is going on. These should be the same numbers in a list instead of, or maybe a tuple. Oh, it's a bitmap. What? Oh, I did the wrong thing. Okay. I was like, what? Why would that be a bitmap? That looks better. Okay, so it's a tuple. It does have -6 and 0. They are the same here, which is good. The universe works pretty well so far. When we called this, where did we come from? So we were at animate bitmap 692. We called draw position from right here. We had set that to false. We were gonna set it to true after, but we failed inside of here. So bitmap 2 offset was passed into animate bitmap. I'm going to take that one from there and put it here and just make sure that it's still the same. Basically make sure that the bitmap offset that got passed into animate bitmap is the same one that's ending up in draw position. Yep. Okay. So this does like a swap-a-roni, but I don't think we're using that code, right? Because -6 is in the X and it stays in the X. Well, we were not actually printing bitmap 1 offset though, I guess. They're both the same. So actually a swap wouldn't even do anything. I mean, maybe the bitmaps are different, I guess. We are doing a swap, actually. Interesting. How can I figure out what these bitmaps are? Okay. Here's how we figure out what they are. We're going to make new tile grids for them. We're going to make a group for them. We're going to put them on the display, and then we're going to make a while true loop that never passes. So basically, we're going to interrupt the whole flow of everything, show them on the screen, and pause. We need palettes. I don't... We need to use the palettes they came with. I don't know what palette they have. They don't have a palette. They don't seem to be used with the tile grid, so Ugh. Bitmap 1 is start bitmap. Bitmap 2 is label bitmap. Only has a color depth of 2. So it's like it's creating a label and then it's copying the bitmap from the label, and then my guess is that copied bitmap is the one that can move, the one that can animate. That's interesting. Deletes the start bitmap right there. So I guess it's the label. Start bitmap and label. Animate bitmap. Animate between old and new. Not sure what that means, because it says animate between old and new. But it also has a start position and an end position. Are those pixels, or are those, maybe those are the percentages again? Didn't print. Because I just have that random tile grid. I don't really get why this would happen. But we did, like we saw earlier, I guess, assuming these are the percentages, like we saw before, then that's from 1 to 0, and we overshot 0 and then bounced back. So where didn't I just put a, did I delete it? Where did that go? Didn't I just put a start position? I don't have auto reload on. Okay, yeah, we're going from 1 to 0. So that is the percentages. So that swaps. What is offset? This comes in as a tuple. So bitmap 1 is the start bitmap. Bitmap 2 is the label bitmap. The offset bitmap 1 position offsets. -1 times left top. I don't know what those are. I guess is maybe pixels? It's basically the like XY coordinates of the top left corner of because top is -64. If we don't set the value, does it still do this stuff or not? No, because animate's never called. I mean, top shouldn't, well, I mean, but we're going negative there, I guess. I don't really know what top is, but -64 seems wrong for it, right? If it's anything to do with like top of the rectangle that this widget occupies. Find the maximum bounding box of the text. This is inside of a init. We do get left, right, top, bottom. I thought label had a bounding box property. Does it not do this? Something's wrong if left, right, any of those. Bounding box. Are these backwards potentially or something? Seen bounding boxes for RGB matrix and marquee scrollers? Well, bounding box, I mean specifically the property on the object that basically returns the XY width height. I'm pretty sure the label class has a property called bounding box that gives you like XY width height essentially, or like top, left, right, bottom or something. It's not, I don't think it's width and height, but rather the pixels they fall on. So this says left 6, top 64, but it says negative. And then it says right 208. And it says bottom 0. But what is that, right? That's not... So like left 6, I could buy. That looks pretty good to me. Right 208, this screen is, this is a PyPortal Titano. I think it's 480? 420? I don't know for sure. But I mean 208, I could buy for the right. That doesn't look too far off. 64, I don't know, the top of -64, I don't know where that comes in, because this is surely more than positive 64. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not accounted for the screen, but then the left. Those numbers being hard-coded? Well, I don't think they're hard-coded. They're calculated. They come from, well, they come from all this. I mean, effectively, it's math with the glyphs. So I guess you could say they're hard-coded based on the font that's used, kind of, it looks like to me. Although I did not follow all the math in here. But there's lots of math, and it's always referencing, like, glyph dot. All these things come from the font. So then by the time this gets done, we have what? Because that's going to minus them. So maybe they flip back to positive, but then it's also going to multiply them. What is our font scale? Okay, font scale's 1. They do go to positive. And I guess I could buy those as being correct for the size of this rectangle, basically. Not the location, but the size. Let's validate that. Oh, is that gonna have vector IO? Maybe. Hopefully. I'm gonna call this ruler because I'm using it to measure the size of the other thing. I don't know. Need a palette, I guess. Palette, P. See, the values are in the, yeah, yep. I'm with you. We'll go P0. Let's just go kind of screaming green, maybe. And I don't know what this pixel shader, width, height, XY. Pixel shader P, width 202, height 64. We'll just keep it at XY00 for now, but we'll move it in a minute. What is the my group dot append ruler? This is one of the things I find super helpful when I'm working on Displayio widgets and stuff, is like draw another thing of a known size, and then you can kind of like either cover it up or put it behind or try to measure if what you're getting is correct. Which to like my eyeball, you know, it looks pretty good. It kind of looks too short, but that's probably just a trick of the screen or whatever. What we'll do though is we'll find the XY of the flip input, which is at an anchor point in an anchor position, which makes it not the easiest thing in the world. You know, it is interesting. It's using, it is kind of, the anchor position is hard-coded here in the user code file, and it does pretty much look like it's set for a PyPortal non-Titano. Wait, let's just, we can find this in REPL. I was going to go find how big the screen is, but the truth is we can just go import board.display.width height. So it's 480 by 320. So ours, it is hard-coded for a smaller one, but that's the location. Can I print the XY? Print my flip X. Let's just say lock. XY. I don't know if that's going to work. Yeah, looks like it. 59, 166. So if we move our rectangle to there now, does it cover this up? Or go behind it. I don't know which one's on top. Okay, yes, but it's only the text, which is good to know, I guess. Which makes sense. Okay. All right. BRB. I'm gonna fill up my water. I'm gonna run to the restroom. I'll be back in just a second. Negative 64 could be for the height, which was 64. Yeah, it could. Yeah, it looks like it for sure. Our height came out to 64, and that negative 64 was there. I don't know about the negative 6. Wait, no, we didn't have a negative 6, did we? In the case where it broke, we had the. Did we have? I'm second guessing myself now. I think we had a negative 6, but that was after some other processing. All right, I'll be back in just a minute. Okay. What I didn't do today was open the Twitch chat either. Actually, let me do that. Oh, I did, but I hid it. Didn't get anything in there. That's good. Glad I was not accidentally ignoring anybody. I have done before, unfortunately. Let me also, since I missed, or let me switch that and take a quick look for new follows or anything. Okay, so that seems fine. The But basically that was just kind of trying to level set in my own head. Like especially with geometry, I'm a visual. I need to see it before I understand what any of these numbers represent. So the bounding box is the size of that, which is cool. We were using top and left, so now we need to basically kind of trace back through where we came from. We were using top and left back when we printed those, which was down further somewhere. Well, and this one hasn't failed yet, I guess, so let's poke it. Fail, so we did. A lot of that was in init, so we didn't redo a bunch of that stuff. Yeah, offsets. Bitmap 1 and 2 offset was where we started. So bitmap 1 and 2 offset were calculated using top and left. I'm going to call this init top left, just so that because now I have two prints that say the same thing, I want to be able to tell them apart. Because we used top and left. This might have been some of the code I changed, actually. I think I might have changed that. Because tile grid stopped being public. I haven't committed it yet. I mentioned it? No, this is, yeah. Yeah, so this is code that I touched. So this is the released version right here, and it does. So it does have this for bitmap 1 offset, just self.label.tilegrid.x. Which, first of all, in my understanding of Displayio, this would always be the same as self.label.x. So there wouldn't really be a need to reach on to the tile grid like that. But maybe that's wrong. I would have thought these would be the same. In which case, because the old code said tile grid, notice no underscore, just tile grid. I had to change that to be underscore tile grid. Now that shouldn't really make the math come out any different, obviously, but just because it is a thing that I touched, it's worth an extra look. And if it can just skip the tile grid entirely, then that's better, because what I had to change it to is accessing the private, protected underscore. Of course, you could also make the case that that should go back to public, maybe. I don't know. That was a change in label. Okay, so this is not until animate, or update value, which I turned off earlier. poke it. We should probably turn that back on though. Are different. Boy, that that negates a fair amount of what I thought I knew about label. I mean, I guess it's not that big of a deal, but tough because it's also into label base. Who holds dot tile grid? It can't be in label base because they use different numbers of tile grids, so it has to be in bitmap label. Tile grid. Self.local group append self.underscore tile grid. Self.underscore tile grid got created right here. Adding an offset. I don't know what those do. I mean, padding is pretty self-explanatory based on the name, I think. I don't recall ever using X offset. Is that an argument? Or? Paddings. Offset. I think these are just internal variables, offset. Calculated based on the paddings and then whether you chose, what other configurations you chose, basically, because there's a few other configurations that it affect it, like tight versus loose, which affects kind of how the baseline works and stuff. You'd have to see it. I'd have to see it to be able to explain it again. Maybe in the Learn Guide of Labels it's broken out, I'm not sure. Okay, but 100% for sure they can be different. In the case where, like most of the time they're going to be different. I guess they could be the same, but it would be coincidental. Which is weird. Which is really, really, really weird. What would happen if you changed the X position of the tile grid of a label? Would the label move visually? Okay, let's not get too far into the weeds, though. How's it going, Dexter, my friend? Hope you're having a nice day. I think we can live with that. I didn't know that was the case, but I do now, and I think that's cool. It opens up some other questions, like what would be the difference if you were setting these values, what would happen, but let's not worry about them, because I don't think it will be relevant to the actual thing at hand. Which right now is, why did we end up on -6 on our offsets? Which effectively was left plus the X of the tile grid, which we saw was 0. So then, well, okay, that's our -6 as well. What's weird to me is why would the label be at -6? X? But still visible. The whole thing's visible. But we also have a group, but the group's not changed. Okay, I'll tell you what. We have a crud load of extra prints now. And we can see that our -6, which is our problematic value in the horizontal flip input, is getting calculated by left, which we know is 6, but it's getting multiplied by -1 to make it negative. And then the x of that is 0, so 0 plus -6 is -6. Top ends up being different. We'd have to print the tile grid Y, but by the end of it, the value for all of this ends up being 0, as we can see here. Oh my. Let's run it on the version where it works and see which of these numbers are different. Because we know this final number is different. We saw that yesterday. But what else is different and where? Also, it would make sense for padding, otherwise you just move it with anchor point. Yeah, the anchor point will change the x and y to afterwards, basically. Anchor point's just like a fancier kind of way to change x and y, basically. Okay, so that's different? Here's the old one. No, that's the same. Okay, so bounding box was 00, 202, 64. My flip block was 59, 166. That's the same. That's the same. Are those? Those are the same. These are different. Left 6, top Minus 64. That's the same, but tile grid X is different. But, like, this one doesn't crash, but it's also not working. Like, it's gone, and the time that it's gone is while it's doing all these updates. We should print the X and the Y in there, wherever we're printing this. I should not have touched it that many times. So tile grid X is different. Tile grid X, really? Oh, I wish it would have kept that that highlight thing, the diff that we had pulled up yesterday. So I gotta basically go back and just find that again. So it was it's like September to December, or no. It is December 21st through, there's why I said it was thinking September was the 9 on 29. 129. 12/21 to 129. That's the latest 29 that I see, but it's also just to translate. There's 26, 27. Let's go back to like here. Can I like keep this somehow to reference later? Not really, okay. Ah, there we go. I think if it's, but, okay, but that's useless because that's like just the diff of one file. I guess let's look for changes to tile grid. None in bindings, but I mean, it feels like a module is kind of a change. So it's like functionality, right? But there's none here either. There's init. Frame buffer stuff. ISFL. Yeah, we're not using that. Board spy. I2C. ISFL stuff. Okay. I think I get it. We're using different, it's not that the core changed. I mean, it is kind of, but the thing that's in the core that changed is the frozen version of display text. Which unfortunately we can only see the hash. Yeah, so based on which version of display text you use, that's what's going to determine whether tile grid is public or not. There's annotate. I'm not at the place where I was at. Now it just doesn't find it. I guess it didn't find it before because it was underscore. It's already underscore here. This one has no underscore. This one's very old. It's hard. You know what get blame makes it hard to do is like trace through the history of more than one change. Like if the thing you're looking for, if the most recent change to it is what you're looking for, then it's good to go. But if you are looking for this, like when did this change to private? I don't know how to make it do that. Are we a year off? So December 21, 2022 to January 29, 2023. Oh, yeah, I am. Totally am. Yeah, thank you. I wish there was something in between drag, which goes by like the speed of light, and scroll wheel, which goes by like the speed of snail. Although I do think now the tile grid is... But I mean, what dot tile grid and dot underscore tile grid should still both be the same thing, even if it got changed to private, right? So why would the X value change? Okay, display text did change, but again, we can't really see the diff inside of there. Let's close these ports. I shared. So no tile grid there, but that's shared bindings. No tile grid here either, but there is bitmap. Line bits got turned to shouty. Here's the one use we saw. X mask, X shift. Let's try to go. I think the difference is in display text, not the core. For one thing, let's just try changing it again to non-private one. Oh, an extra dot. Okay. Can you print the version in REPL? Yeah, but it doesn't work. I wish that would be populated. Get lens. Atlassian tool in VS Code. Free version can show line history. Interesting. I think PyCharm can do something like this as well. Whoops. But it's tough because at some point, like, label base got introduced, which didn't exist before, although the tile grid should have never been in the label base, so I guess it should have been bitmap label the whole time. All right, so we have 2 times we set it to none. At the end of reset text, which is feels awkward, but okay. At the beginning of a init, and then when we actually set it, which is inside reset text, when the text string is not empty. Oh, okay, that's doing it when the text string was empty, I see. Then we create it down here, if it didn't exist, or if that's true. Back here it does have a tile grid, but I'm afraid maybe I just should select a bigger section. I'm afraid we're eventually going to run out of our little area. Okay, that's still tile grid. That's still tile grid. That is also still tile grid, which I would have thought actually Pylint might have been the thing to complain, but label direction, that's still tile grid. Okay, refactor, maybe refactor. Yeah, that changed palette. I bet this is it. But it did... No, it actually says it still has tile grid like this. But we did... Oh, no. We do have tile grid here as well. I was going to say we did run out of our thing. There is refactor bitmap, and then there is refactor tile grid. Okay. So we found where it changed. Refactor tile grid. Whoa. I didn't know you could do that. That's the only change, though, is... Can I get to the PR from this? Nice. This is label base. We should try to... Oh, I covered up the chat over here. Sorry about that. We should try to figure out... we should try to get it to put the version numbers in the frozen libraries when it makes the build. Should be able to do that, right? How do those get populated in the... They get populated somewhere. Maybe we can download the ones that are already populated instead of trying to generate new ones. It's not really line history anymore. I guess it needs to move to block detection too, like symbol history. Love symbol browser on GitHub. How good. So a bunch of other things also changed, public to private. No more parentheses. Move the parentheses. Okay. This is into regular label, not bitmap label, which won't matter for us. Okay. So public to private, but I'm on the older one. And it doesn't like public, so the one that I'm on cannot be the one that has the public one. I gotta apologize, but I gotta run to the restroom again. Oh wow, I didn't screw that on all the way. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, let's put these back so that it runs, and then I don't exactly know yet, but one step at a time. Where's our tile grid value, though? How did it, what? Oh. Broke something. Okay. I only need to change these 5. I guess there's a 6th. Oh yeah, it changed the uppercase one. I feel like find replace should be case sensitive. I think there's a check mark for it though. I guess I just would have assumed it defaulted on, but I guess it doesn't. So in this version of the code, label underscore, and it's technically bitmap label. Every time I say label in this context, I mean bitmap label basically. Bitmap label underscore tilegrid x gives us the value of 40. In that other newer one, it gives us the value of 0. But in both cases, it's using display text that's frozen in to the build for me because I'm running on a PyPortal and display text is frozen in. So we just have whichever version of display text was there at the time, and I don't know if we have an easy way to know what version that was. I'm just going to take a copy of the current display text and put it in the root of my device, not inside lib, but in the root of my device, which is going to make it so that it will use that one instead of the frozen one. I've switched sides yet again. Okay. That gives us the 0. Okay. We are deeper, but I'm not Sure how close to the solution we are. So current display text behaves the same way as the newer of the two UF2s that I've been working with. Makes sense, basically. Old display text somehow the tile grid X is different. But even with the old one, something is still messed up because the actual animation is not visible. Yep. Yeah, that's super helpful if you're ever doing library dev. It can feel maddening if you don't know about the frozen libraries and you're like trying to edit a library inside your lib folder and it's just like no matter what you do, your changes just aren't having effect. That's usually the cause of that. You only have to pull your hair out once for that before you learn about frozen libraries, and then from then on, always check if the library you're working on is frozen in. If you ever start to feel that again. It's wild to me the X from the tile grid can be so different. So something is still wrong, causing us not to draw anything at all. I have a feeling is going to be its own whole adventure. Even if we ignore that for now, though, the difference between 40 and 0 in the X of a tile grid I don't understand at all. Um, uh, I want to try to see if this is the breakpoint of this PR. Like, is this PR, the commits in it, is that where the value changes from 40 to 0? I don't know if I can actually do that, though. First thing we need to get is to get the full window, which right now we're in the history of one file. There we go. Apparently log. What is console? Interesting. So that's the first commit from this PR. First or last? I don't know what order these are in. First, because they get bigger. Okay. And then the last one is print a message of max. I wish this would highlight instead of get rid of all the others. 7, 8, 21. Oh, okay, it left me here. That's nice. Okay, so I wanna go to before this. $153. Oh, okay, this is 154. Okay. Check out. Copy this. Delete the one in the root. Paste in the new one. Is actually an old one. Okay, this one, it doesn't have the underscore tile grid, which I guess is kind of a duh because we literally just went to right before it changed to that. So let's change it to public. See if the value is 40 or 0. This is how I screwed myself last time because my finder place actually works correctly when we are going from private to public, but just not the other way. Unless I figure out how to fix the case. I still never added the value back. Okay. Yes. So the commit before that PR, the value of what is at the time the public.tilegridx is 40. Now we want to see after that PR. My hypothesis is that after that PR, it will be, of course, underscore tile grid because it got made private. And it will also be 0. And then honestly, I'm probably getting pretty close to out of steam, truthfully. Merge 154. Check out. Feels like it's like a debugging stuff like this is interesting. It's kind of like a weird type of investigator through time. It's interesting how the different libraries over time becomes a thing where you have to worry about it like this. Okay, it's gonna. Is it gonna fail? Well, we didn't change them to private, so yeah, it's gonna fail because tile grid. Okay, it's actually because bitmap, but that one must just get. Wait, what? Must get done first is what I was gonna say, but maybe bitmap got changed back to public. Maybe it got changed to private with this PR, but then changed back to public some other time. Yeah, now there's a public property bitmap. Which unfortunately means we have to change multiple things. We need to change this to be private now, and then we're actually going to have to go find the .bitmap, and we're going to need to change that to be public because... no, private, because... there's 15 of them. No, those don't count. Okay, there's only 5. One of them's commented out. It's still 40. Oh boy. What does that mean? That means that this PR is not the thing that changed the behavior that results in the different number value. It changed the public to private. But whatever affected the value of the tile grid X is different. How many PRs have there been? So we were just looking at 174 or 154 or something? 154. What are we up to now? 199. There's about 45. If we assume there's one release per PR, which is like roughly there should be ish, but maybe not exact. Because like at this point, I feel like tracking down the difference in display text that results in the dot tile grid X having a different value. That's the difference we need to find next in order to kind of like peel back the next layer of this onion. I was assuming that it would be this PR where it changed from public to private and the rest of the refactoring happened, but that's not actually the case because the commit after that is merged still has it equal to 40. We had to change it from public private. We had to do a little dance to make it actually run, but the value is still 40. So I think the next thing to do is try to like bisect display text from after PR 154 up to current version and find where that change happens from tilegrid.x equals 40 to tilegrid.x equals 0. Wherever that change happened, fingers crossed, hopefully if we can find the code and look at the change, we can figure out what caused it, like, and then hopefully maybe we can try to figure out how can we recalculate that 40 value, because I think we need that 40 value. We have another problem too, which is that even when we use the 40 value, we're not visually seeing the animation. So that's another problem to work out, but if we don't worry about it for now, I think that 40, I think we want that. I think somehow we need to try to tweak the current flip input so that it gets that 40 in this specific version, right? Obviously, this is all calculated by the size of the font and the position and all kinds of stuff, but in our case here, in this one sample, I think we want that 40. Since it doesn't crash, I got to assume that's the better of the two possibilities. And therefore, if we could find a way in the current flip input to calculate or access that value of 40, even though it's no longer on the tile grid X, it must be, you know, somewhere, right? It must be the X minus the padding, or the padding plus the offset, or I don't know. There must be a way to calculate the same number, I assume, though. And if we do that inside flip input, where we are calling blit with our calculated value, those offsets, bitmap 1 offset, if we change our calculation there to get that 40, then I think we'll be on the right path. After that, the next thing to do is figure out why we don't see the animation. But I think the key to being able to change flip input to do that without just guessing and checking a million things is going to be find inside display text where that changed. What release is it? What PR was it? Let's look at the list of changes. And in order to do that, we got to bisect display text. But I don't think I have the oomph for that right now. So I think I will call it a day for the time being. Like I said last night, I'm not sure about deep dive yet, so stay tuned. Check out on Tuesday maybe, or throughout the week, whenever I think Scott gets back for the latter half of the week. So I'm not really sure when, but once Scott's back, he will let us know whether or not he's doing deep dive next week or not. I don't know. If he's not, then I probably will. I don't think I have anything else. Otherwise, I'll be back on Saturday for sure as well, I believe. So until then, I would say have a good weekend. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you later.